Hi everybody, welcome to my channel, Life, Law, Bin. Now, I've noted that you participated in KCH Garden Square's Pride Month series, where you spoke openly and honestly about your own personal experience at the bar. Now, given that you're a champion for diversity, why do you think equality and diversity is so vital at the bar?
As barristers, I think for the most part, the public are employers, and I think the public deserve a bar and a bench that is representative of the people that they represent. Um, it's often said, but I think it's apparent, abundantly true, that diversity allows for a much richer and natural flow of life and experiences. Um, if we have that at the bar, it means that we're not just looking at things through one homogenous lens. I know that I can relate to certain clients in a different way than some of my friends and colleagues can. I can understand some of my clients' cultural differences. I can understand their way of thinking, their way of speaking, in a way that may subconsciously or unconsciously provide others with a bias towards them that I might not have. And for me, I know if I was to be a client, I would want somebody who works within a system that is not just singular. And so diversity at the bar and, quite frankly, all walks of life is important for me.
I think the bar is definitely taking steps and strides in the right direction, but sadly, we're not fully there as yet. In order to improve the equality and diversity at the bar, what types of initiatives do you think should be implemented?
I'm not a huge fan of targets, and I look at the bar and I look at the things that have happened in the past. The bar used to be an incredibly male-dominated space. That happily is changing. My chambers is 48% female, 52% male. So that's changing, and it's changing within the time that I've been at the bar. In terms of some other protected characteristics, such as sexuality, once upon a time, people would never talk about their sexuality at the bar and would be hidden. That is no longer an issue. I think people are more happy, and that's partly as a result of societal pressures, where people are happy to be open and to be out whilst working at the bar, and indeed on the bench. So what I think we need in order to improve racial diversity, because racial diversity is not taking off in the same way than some of the others and some of the other protected characteristics. In order to improve those, we need campaigns. The campaigns that help with social mobility, so we've seen it with campaigns such as I Am the Bar, they dovetail very easily and very handily with ensuring that we have people from more diverse racial backgrounds coming to the bar. Things like 10,000 Black interns, that is a wonderful thing. And there are then some people who come into the bar to help. Bridging the Bar again is pushing all of these initiatives. And I think the bar and the leaders of the bar need a very hard look at themselves and look at where we are in ensuring that in 5 years' time, in 10 years' time, we are hitting the figures. Because all I want, and all most of us want, is actually just to see figures that meet national statistics. Black people make up 3% of the UK, make up 1% of the bar. It's not good enough. So that needs to change. And things like, just simple things like that. And it might mean then that people like me and others go out to schools because representation and being seen is so important. You will know, and I will know, and the story I often say is this: I used to live in the UK before I moved to Barbados. And this is a very, very generic story, but I think important because it understands and allows people to understand a certain viewpoint. I often say when I left the UK, I got on a plane at Gatwick Airport. Black people I saw at Gatwick Airport working were often cleaners, porters, baggage handlers. Good jobs, brilliant jobs, and they do a good job at it. I got to Barbados. Black people were flying the planes, were in air traffic control, were checking people in. And you change your whole reference because you see people doing jobs that you never thought were possible. You see people who look like you, who act like you, sound like you, doing things that are achievable. When I graduated at Commonwealth School, the Attorney General came to give talk because he was an old Commonwealthian. He is an old Commonwealthian. That field of reference allows and opens horizons for everybody. So, you know, whilst I'm not the most shy and retiring person, I'm not really a person that goes out and puts myself out there, but it's important that people see me and hopefully young Black boys and girls in the villages and towns near me see me and go, oh, okay, Jamal's a barrister. I didn't think that was possible. So maybe I can do that. And so there's some of the things that I think that we need to do in order to improve diversity at the bar. And we need to be real about it.
Given that we're on the topic of the bar specifically, before we even think about your judicial appointment, I'm wondering if you have any advice that you could give to juniors who are developing their practices, because there's quite a bit of talks and stuff we attend with that pupillage element of it, but I still think that there probably could be more talks on, you know, developing your career as a junior.
I'll tell you something. The day you finish pupillage and you become a tenant, or if you're employed, you are no longer a pupil, is the most underwhelming day of your life. Because most of us go from A-levels to aspiring to become, to get to university, aspiring to get to bar school, aspiring to get a pupillage, and then it ends. And then you go, oh, I made it. Okay, here it is. What's next? I remember my mum saying at the time, okay, so QC, is that next? Well, no, I've just started, you know? And what you have to do, and you have to change your whole frame of reference, because now you're not looking at the next big hurdle, you're not looking at the next achievable goal. The next goal is tomorrow. Take each case, keep your eye on each case day by day. Put your faith in your clerks. Be very clear to your clerks if you have ambition, but allow yourself the time to breathe, the time to stop, and the time to learn, because actually your learning hasn't ended. And as far as I'm concerned, your learning's just begun. But once you are a junior member of the bar. And just be conscientious, okay? Allow yourself to enjoy the rewards of being a barrister, because that's what you've wanted to do. Great. But you're only as good as your last case. And your client needs you on your A game for that day. So do it. And your practice will develop because people will see you. I'm in court 5 days a week for the most part. I'm against solicitors quite often. I'm instructed by solicitors on every occasion. They know that I'm good because I tell them that I will do what I do. And then at the end of it, they get a lovely attendance note from me. They get a lovely written up report, and they know that I've done the job that they've asked me to do. So they'll come back. And your practice will grow that way because you are conscientious. You will be the person that they can depend on. But you've got to learn to manage your own boundaries as well. Too often I see people burn out because it's Saturday now. I will do some work tonight. I will do some work tomorrow. I will do some work Monday morning because I've got to be ready and start a trial on Monday. And people will burn out. Learn when to take the breaks. The best piece of advice somebody said to me when I first started is, Jamal, every 6 weeks, take a long weekend. So that's every 6 weeks. That's indulgent. Actually, even just a long weekend to stop and recharge is all that you need. And then if you're lucky, you get to be like me and you get to go at least once a year and bathe down at Batswalk in Barbados, and that kind of just, you know, that sets the tone. But sorry if you're not Bajan and you don't have that opportunity, quite frankly.
Indeed. The thing about it is, I really like that reference that you made about you're only as good as your last case. I spent the majority of my early life in theatre. Quite the thespian, love acting, love theatre, love performing arts, always did it. That was me. Every summer I was in a production, and also I used to participate in the NIFCA here, which is our national it's our national arts display. So basically it's for performing arts. And I always remember that was something that stuck with me because they would always tell you, look, everyone knows, you know, you're a good actor or a good actress, but you're only as good as your last performance. So it's interesting that we can actually still transfer that same notion to your actual practice, because obviously if you've been, you know, you've developed that reputation, but you just did something terribly wrong on that last occasion, somehow the negative seems to stick a little bit more than all of the times that you performed really, really well. So I really do like that. Are there any myths that you find about practicing at the family bar that you can debunk?
People often think at the family bar that we're not lawyers. We're not interested in the black letter law. That's entirely untrue. You know, often our law is very settled in terms of the family, in terms of family work, especially in terms of child protection stuff that I do. But that doesn't mean that we're not rooted in the law. I often quote judgments when I'm making submissions. When I'm questioning, I'm doing it in the frame of a judgment because I know the judge knows what I'm doing in order to ask the right questions to get me to the right point. People often think, you know, that we don't have that same level of intellectual rigor. I entirely disagree. But there is the reality that at the family bar, that we are a lot more hands-on, and often more empathetic with our clients because of some of the things that we go through with them. And there is nothing that will level you and a client about hearing the fact that a judge has put their child up for adoption against their will. That's a significant thing. And we know, or I know, that when I go to a final hearing, if I've never met my client before, I've got 5 minutes really to get them to trust me, believe that I have their interests at the forefront, believe that I know that their case backwards, and allow us both to go on this journey to make, to put their case forward before the court. It's not a lot. It's not a lot of time, and it's a big undertaking. But that's one of the things that I think that we have to do, and we push forward every time.
Now, returning a bit to your recent judicial appointment. Now, the keen listener will realize that your recent appointment as a deputy district judge represents the fact that you are the youngest ever Black judicial appointment. Now, I obviously do some research on my guests, and you were called to the bar in 2012, and you were a county court advocate from about January 2014 to September 2015. And you were a pupil barrister from September 2015. And obviously you went on to attain tenancy and a thriving practice and being appointed to the bench effectively within approximately 8 years from being an advocate and 6 years from pupillage. What a fantastic achievement. What does this achievement actually mean for you now that I have actually laid it out in context for you to see? I'm sure you've probably reflected on it, but I myself was marveling.
I've reflected on it a couple of times, and it's a lot. I pinch myself even now, actually, the fact that I've got there, and I always wanted to become a member of the judiciary. I thought it was something that I wanted to do, and we have a rule, and our rule is that you're not allowed to become a member of the judiciary unless you have had at least 5 years post-qualification experience. I made an application. It was July last year, 2021, and I said, okay, I'll make this what I think is going to be an application and an exercise really to see how it goes. So I understand the process, and then I can make a proper application in a couple of years' time when I'm a little bit older and people understand what I do. Quite key. I get through the rounds, and the final round, it's 50-50 chance at this point, basically, and they appoint me. It means a lot to me because being a judge is important. It's important work. It is a weight of responsibility that the state have put in me to make the right decision. And I was talking earlier about the really grave and weighty matters that I deal with as an advocate. I'll be dealing with those same things just on the other side, and often I allow myself the luxury to say, well, I'm not making the decision. I am now. And that's quite big. It's a realization of a dream. And I was having this conversation with my mother the other day. It's a realization of what I call generational dreams, because I think of my grandparents, and I always think of my grandparents, and sadly in the last 12 months I lost both of my grandmothers. That when they left Barbados and Montserrat in the 1950s and came to the UK, they were met with a world that was alien to them. They were met with signs in the windows saying no blacks, no dogs, no Irish. They were met with hideous hostility. And I imagine never in their wildest dreams would they have considered that their grandson, not that far away, would be a judge. The youngest black judge ever to be appointed. I didn't go into these things for those kind of accolades. I don't go into these things to get that. I did it because I thought it was maybe the right time, and obviously it was. But that is weighty. I can't lie to you. That is weighty. But it is a mantle that I've asked for and therefore will take up. And we've got to do right as judges. We've got to do right by all people, and that's genuinely what I want to do. I want to do right by all people. So that's what I'll do.
And what do you think this achievement means for other Blacks and other ethnic minorities?
I can answer that very easily, actually, because judging by the WhatsApps I'm getting from my mum and her friends, and from people that I know in the community, it means a lot, because in the UK, often we see negative press in response to Black people and other ethnic minorities. Often we see stories that are not ones to be celebrated. But this is a huge story. And when I was appointed back in October this year, two of my good friends who were black barristers in the Midlands were also appointed. That is tremendous. That's unheard of, you know, absolutely unheard of. And the three of us, Tom Lawal, who's a barrister, slightly older than me, and happy to say that because he looks a lot younger than me, slightly older than me, appointed a deputy district judge at the same time as me. I didn't know he was applying. He didn't know I was applying, because you go into this and you want to be a little bit, you keep it to yourself just a little bit because you're not so sure what's going to happen. He called me and he congratulated me when he saw my news. And then he said, Jamal, I've been appointed too. And the screams of joy that we both exclaimed down that phone allows me to know what it means, because there's something palpable about it. There's something about it that I try not to be too over enthusiastic about this, but the reality is it means a lot more to our communities, because it means that there is a line of acceptance, and indeed a line of acceptability, and we're moving forward in the right direction. And so I won't allow this to be the end of my line, and I will not be the last. There will be more that come after me.
No, it's powerful. It's very, very powerful, because even in the year that I've been working in the courts in the UK as an advocate, we don't see often the bench being a reflection of who we are. Whether you may be a black or identify as a black person or another ethnic minority, often we see the same standard face or someone that you probably think can never identify with your reality. So I can say, as a black woman, that this is an incredible achievement, and this is why people will be jumping for joy, because it makes you feel comfortable as well, that when you enter the court, that the bench on a whole can be a reflection of society as well. So it is powerful indeed. And the last question, this has been a really, really insightful interview, but this is our last question. What advice would you give to any junior barristers who are sitting there right now considering a career at the bench?
If you're considering a career at the bench, there are tools and guides on the Judicial Application, Judicial Appointment Commission website that walk you through what you would anticipate to be the process. There are a number of seminars that the Commission put on, and other interested focus groups. Go to them. Absolutely go to them, because they open your eyes a little bit more to what you will face in the application rounds. And number one tip is this: know what the competencies that they're asking you for, because they, again, list them on their website. Keep your little notebook, and every time you do something that might match that competency, write it down, so that when you come to fill out your application form, it's there and you've got it, so you don't have to then search your brain for what you did over the last 12 years, and then you can update it every month, and you've got all the examples, and you've got to provide examples for the work that you're doing. And my second tip is this: don't be daunted. The bench are looking to become younger. I'm proof that the bench are trying their hardest to become younger. But the only way the bench can become younger is if younger people are applying for it. I'm 33. Little bit bummed out because I was a month away from being 32 when I was made a deputy district judge, but that's by the by. You got to go for it. You've got to be in it to be able to get the appointment. Don't be daunted. Don't be daunted by the fact that there will be people who appear in front of you who you've known for longer, who have been doing the job longer than you've been alive. Well, it doesn't matter, because you've gone through the rigorous tests, or you will have gone through the rigorous tests, and been deemed to be good enough and worthy enough to become a judge. So please go for it. That's my advice.
And that's a wrap, folks. This interview, like all of our other interviews, it has been tremendously insightful. We are unbelievably grateful that you found the time, especially on a Saturday afternoon, to sit down and have a chat with us. It has been a pleasure and certainly my honor.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, folks, for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next video. Take care of yourself. Bye, everyone.